Hello everyone, welcome to PCD Vinyl World. Today I wanted to do a video that I've been thinking about doing it for a while. So these are like Kiss related albums and CDs. Not necessarily solo albums from former members or whatever, but just albums or artists that had a loose connection with Kiss somehow. And some of them you may heard of, some of you may not. But have a variety of albums and CDs here. Some of them have a pretty loose connection, and others have a direct connection or even performance or songwriting on it. So before I get started, please hit the like and subscribe button. So starting off, just want to start at the beginning here. This is actually a compilation called Hard Goods, and this is a Warner Brothers compilation, actually. A lot of you don't know that Casablanca was actually owned by Warner Brothers Records when Kiss first signed with them. And it didn't last too long before they broke off on their own. So if you have a promo of the first Kiss album, a lot of them have that pink Warner Brothers sticker because they actually owned Casablanca at the time. But anyway, this has a Strutter on it. So this was a one of those Warner Brothers compilations. It has everyone from Deep Purple to Ted Nugent to Greg Allman, Neil Young, but has Strutter on there also. So it's a pretty hard to find compilation. Next up, this relates to Peter Criss's band, Chelsea, that he had before Kiss. He was the only member to have an album out at the time, or not at the time, but previously to Kiss. And also have a couple of compilations that have a track from that Chelsea album. I have two of them. One of them sealed. I found at a dollar bin. This album, Bryan Adams, Cuts Like a Knife. So not only does Bryan Adams have a connection because he co-wrote War Machine, and I think Down on Your Knees and Rock and Roll Hell from Creatures of the Night and Killers, but Eric Carr actually wrote a song on this album called Don't Leave Me Lonely. The demo of that is on the new Creatures of the Night box set, the music for it, but a lot of people don't know that Eric wrote a song on there. This is a compilation called Smell the Fuzz. This was put out by Guitar World, I guess, sometime in the 90s. And it has an instrumental song called Cherokee Boogie from Ace Frehley that not a lot of people know about. I think this is the only release that's on. So this is a tribute album called Hard to Believe. Besides being a Kiss tribute album, it's notable because it has a cover of Do You Love Me from Nirvana. This is pre-Nevermind, pre-Dave Grohl joining the band. And I believe it's actually sung by their original drummer, if I'm not mistaken. But this was the one that set off a lot of those tribute albums in the 90s. There. First Michael Bolton album. So a lot of people don't realize that Michael Bolton's first couple of albums were actually hard rock, not even including Blackjack, which he was in with Bruce Kulick, but this sort of is like a hard rock AOR album, but Bruce Kulick and Bob Kulick play a lot of solos on here. And actually his second album, which I don't have, Everybody's Crazy, I think Bruce plays a lot of lead guitar on there too. And also, I think Aldo Nova plays a lot of keyboards on here. So, that one. This is the soundtrack to Shocker, which the title track is sort of it's a bunch of well-known artists, but Paul Stanley sings the chorus on it. And also, this is the only officially released version of the song called Sword and Stone, which a lot of Kiss fans know as a demo that they recorded for Crazy Nights, but never released. It's done by the band Bonfire, I believe, but Kiss still has never even released a demo or version of that, so this is like the only official released version of that song. First Badlands album had Eric Singer. He was in the band at the time. He was either fired or let go after this album for whatever reason, but Eric also played with Lita Ford, Black Sabbath. He played with Alice Cooper throughout the 90s, on and off from when he was in Kiss and without, but I think this is the only one where maybe he's on album cover. This Rockology from Eric Carr, this was released in sometime in the late 90s, actually 2000, and there's a bunch of demos that he had recorded with mostly Bruce on guitar. I think Bruce finished up a lot of the stuff on here, and he sings them, the songs that aren't instrumentals, but some pretty good song called Eyes of Love, which should have been on Hot in the Shade but wasn't, but I think this is pretty hard to find now. The band Union with Bruce Kulick and John Corabi, they released 2 studio albums and a live album. Live album is significant because it has the only official released live song from Carnival of Souls. They do a version of The Jungle on here, and I Walk Alone also from that album. So this is a pretty good live album if you ever see it. Also in that same vein is the Eric Singer project. This is basically just a covers album with Eric Singer, John Corabi on vocals, Bruce Kulick, and Carl Cochran on bass, who played with Ace Frehley during the 90s. And also co-wrote the song from Psycho Circus that Ace wrote on there, Into the Void. It was slipping my mind. But they actually do some pretty cool covers on here, like Johnny Winter, Montrose, Johnny Deep Purple, but not the songs you'd expect, like SOS from Aerosmith. So this is a pretty cool. I think he did a second one, or maybe a live album or something. Bruce Kulick has had a couple of studio albums since he left Kiss. This is his first one, Audio Dog. It's pretty good. This one's actually pretty cool too, DK3. I don't have his second one, Transformer. That's the one I'm missing. But this one's pretty cool. It's kind of like that Santana album where he has a bunch of guest vocalists and guitar players on here. So he's got everyone from Gene Simmons to the singer from The Knack. Actually, it's his last performance before he died. Even Steve Lukather plays on a song. So that's a pretty cool album there. Getting back to the albums, we got Keel, Final Frontier. Gene had produced, I believe, their first 2 or 3 albums. Trying to think, there's something else about this album that's Kiss related, and I'm not gonna. Should have looked before I. But anyway, yeah, this is Gene definitely produced them. I think that's the tour that they open up for Kiss too. The Wendy O. Williams album, sort of called the Long Lost Kiss album because I believe every member of Kiss at the time, up until this time, had played on it, including Ace Frehley and Vinnie Vincent and Eric Carr. It's produced by Gene Simmons. It has the first release version of It's My Life, which later Kiss released as their demo of. As Legends Never Die, which was on the Kiss box set recently. What else is on here? Thief in the Night, which ended up on Crazy Nights. So yeah, there's a lot of Kiss connection on here. It's not really a punk album, it's more rock. Good Rats, great American music. If you don't know the Good Rats, they were sort of like a Long Island regional local band. They were big in the Northeast and went back and forth from being on a major label to like independent labels. This one's on Great American Records, but this one was their final album, I think, before they broke up, and Bruce Kulick plays lead guitar on this and was in a band at the time. So this one's just basically straight ahead hard rock. They've done everything, the Good Rats, from like basic hard rock to rock and roll to almost like jazzy stuff. But if you could seek this one out, it's pretty good. Robert Fleischman. It's a solo album by him. I believe this came out in 1979. So nowadays he's known as like that original Journey singer before Steve Perry. Even though he didn't never recorded an album with them, he played like one show with them at Day on the Green. And for whatever reason, didn't work out and they got Steve Perry. But he ended up releasing this album, and he also became the singer on the first Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, which he left also before they toured. The best song on here is definitely All For You, which is written by Neil Schon, and it definitely sounds like a Journey song. The rest of it goes back and forth between like AOR rock and like very bad 70s ballads, but it's just a curiosity to have. I've got this in a dollar bin. So next up is the band Spider. They were managed by Bill Aucoin and also featured Holly Knight on vocals, who played keyboards on Kiss Unmasked, and also Anton Fig, who is the drummer on Kiss Unmasked and Dynasty. There's a sort of a story that he was asked to join Kiss, but then was told the next day that they didn't think it was a good idea. But he claims that he didn't want to join Kiss because he was focusing on this band. But either way, it's an okay early 80s AOR album. Does have a version of that song Better Be Good to You, Better Be Good to Me, which was later done by Tina Turner, I think. Whatever. I mentioned these guys before, Blackjack. So this was a band featuring Bruce Kulick and Michael Bolton on vocals. They had 2 albums. I don't have the second one. This one's pretty good. It's pretty heavy, actually. But it's got a cool album cover where it opens like a deck of cards, kind of. So it's hard to find these in good condition. Next up is this 12-inch single from Desmond Child and Rouge. This was his band at the time, or maybe it was just him and 2 background singers, whatever. This was right before, I guess, he co-wrote I Was Made for Loving You with Paul Stanley, but there is actually a song on here called The Fight, which is co-written by Paul Stanley. So that's a pretty cool novelty. Next up is actually the Bangles. This is Everything. And this album actually features a song written by Vinnie Vincent called Make Her Play for Her Now, which a lot of people don't know, but I think he might play acoustic guitar on the song also, but that's another sort of weird one. I'm just mentioning this because I had picked this up at a dollar bin again. This is Adam Mitchell. So this is a very, very loose connection. Adam Mitchell in the 80s co-wrote a lot of songs with Kiss on Creatures of the Night. I believe he actually played guitar on Creatures of the Night and co-wrote a bunch of stuff on Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade maybe. But this was an album he put out. I guess it was his first album in 1979. More of like a yacht rock type thing, singer-songwriter. Never heard that he had any success as a solo artist, but again, it's just a kind of a curious thing. This is a band called New England, which Paul Stanley produced. And they opened for Kiss for the majority of the Dynasty tour. They were also managed by Bill Aucoin, I believe. Never took off for whatever reason. And I think they had 2 or 3 albums. They were big in like regional areas like Detroit, things like that. But there's that. I just happen to remember this because I just did ranking of Ted Nugent's albums. But this album actually has credited Tommy Thayer on background vocals along with Jamie St. James from Black and Blue. So, but I rank this as the lowest Ted Nugent album because it's pretty bad production. Next up is the band Balance. This was Bob Kulick's band, along with Pepe Castro, who co-wrote Naked City on Unmasked. I believe they had 2 albums, Balance and Balance 2. It's okay, just regular AOR rock. And then last but not least, probably the band most associated with Kiss ever was Angel. They were on Casablanca Records and discovered by Gene and Aucoin at a club in DC. They actually never opened for Kiss, though. They were sort of like the opposite of Kiss, meaning they dressed in all white, but they never took off like they should have, probably because, I don't believe they ever wanted, Gene and Bill Aucoin ever wanted them to be as big as Kiss, but they could have at one time. They had 5 albums in the 70s, and they had a reunion album a couple years ago, but their first and second ones are definitely the best. But that's definitely not a complete list. It's just the ones I have. If you like these videos, again, please subscribe and let me know which ones you have. Again, I didn't include the Ace Frehley, Vinnie Vincent, Peter Criss albums because those are well-knowns. So, again, thanks a lot.